Poppers.
What's up, everybody? It's Christmas time. Time for me to recite a brand new rhyme about one of the best times of the year.
That's my beat off box. Alright, what are we doing? 1975?
1975. What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Waters. Welcome to the Live to Metal. We are doing the top 20 plus of 1975. So what we've done is we've got a kind of a pile of ones that we like. These should be mentioned, but they're not in our list.
Right.
And we've got 20 that we actually put in order.
Yep.
20 through 1.
And I'm Trog, by the way.
Oh, did I not say that?
No.
If you guys don't know who Trog is by now,
yeah, why are you watching?
Yeah.
At all. Alright, so without any ado, we'll start with this one. And like we said, these first few are just in no particular order. Came out in 75 and they were good. We got Grand Funk, Double Live, Caught in the Act.
A little more poppy here than they were in the earlier albums.
Yep. Terry Knight was already gone as their producer.
And, yep, and you've got...
I think. Wasn't he?
I think so.
Yeah.
And you've got a lot of hit singles. They were huge at this time.
Oh, yeah.
They were selling out
Massive.
stadiums
Massive.
2-3 nights in a row. It's funny that now they're just kind of an afterthought, but they were huge back then.
Yeah, and they got, I mean, you got all the stuff you'd expect to be on here. Closer to Home, Foot Stomping Music, Some Kind of Wonderful, Locomotion, you know, all the hits are on here. They were already very
I love
well...
that song. Some Kind of Wonderful is a great song.
Oh, awesome. But they're already very well established at this point. They were the Railroad, they were a four-piece at this point, so they had the keyboard player on them with them full time. So Double Live, Grand Funk.
And Mark Farner actually had a hit a second time with that same song.
Yes, he did.
Re-recorded it in the early 80s with as a solo artist.
It was...
80...
No, it was late. It was late. It was actually, it might have been 90 or 91.
Really, that late?
Yeah. Because that was like part of my introduction to Christian music was that, and I was so into it.
Yeah, it was a good album. It was just a good... Anyhow.
Yeah.
URIAH HEEP.
URIAH HEEP.
First Wave, British Heavy Metal, URIAH HEEP, Return to Fantasy, great album cover.
Featuring John Wetton, one of two albums that he was playing with them on. Vocals and bass.
Yeah, not much to say about it. It's a solid album. It's just not one that made our top list, either one of us. So
it's good stuff. I like both the albums that John Wetton did with them.
Yeah, I do too. It's one of those albums, if I get into a URIAH HEEP mood and I start listening to all their stuff, then it tends to get listened to. Otherwise, if I just want to hear a URIAH HEEP album, it's not the first one I go to.
No, and URIAH HEEP, really, after the first 5 or 6, they start to get kind of spotty anyway.
Yeah.
So, but still good stuff. But, yeah, like Scott said, not first choice. All right. This is going to be a twofer because they had 2 albums in 1 year. We got Iron Butterfly, Scorching Beauty, and Sun and Steel. This was pretty much their swan song. They were done after this one.
Yep.
It's really not even the same Iron Butterfly anymore.
No, it was moving into a new era of music, and they were trying to keep up with the time at the time. So it doesn't have that 60s sound like.
And by this one, Eric Braun and Ron Bushy, the drummer and the guitar player, respectively in reverse. Everyone else was gone. They were the only 2 original guys left. This didn't even have the second marking of the band because Rhino wasn't there on guitar anymore. Lee Dorman was already gone, and he had done what do you call it? Captain Beyond. I don't even think he was on this one.
Nope, I don't think so.
Yeah, Eric and Ron are still here.
Yeah, I don't see him.
I thought Rhino was... No, it looks like this is the last... Yeah, it was the same lineup for both of these. Totally different Iron Butterfly, honestly.
It's kind of straightforward rock and roll albums, not bad. I mean... Not
as proggy as they kind of were.
No wicked drum solos.
Again, these aren't the albums I'm going to go for if I'm
in
Iron Butterfly mood.
Iron Butterfly, yeah. But again, if you're going in that, if you get into that Iron Butterfly mood...
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely some cool artwork. Looks cool.
Next up, this is actually... just threw something on the ground. This is actually a really good album. I
Oh,
really
it's
like
awesome.
This one could have been in our top 20.
Yeah, that's a great
It's
ZZ Top.
a great ZZ Top album, half live, as I believe, and half studio.
Yep.
You know, features the band before they became the, you know, kind of the bearded
Yeah, the massive hit makers,
hit makers
of
of
the
the
80s.
80s. Yeah.
This has the mega hit Tush on it, which everybody loved.
Yep. And a lot of people have covered, that's for sure.
And it's got Heard It on the X, which is one of my personal favorite tunes.
Yep. Great song. And then they do that medley's on here too, right? Yeah, there's a medley in the back.
Yeah.
Back Love Affair, Mellow Down Easy, Back Love Affair #2, and Long Distance Boogie.
Yep.
All smashed into one 9-minute jam, basically.
The Backdoor Medley, they called it.
But
Yeah, definitely a classic ZZ Top.
it's a good album.
release.
That's really good. It really could have been in the top 20.
Yeah, it could have.
Which just goes to show you we like our top 20 a lot.
Yeah, we got another twofer here. Back when bands in the 70s could manage to put out 2 albums in 1 year. We got Four Wheel Drive and Head On by Bachman Turner Overdrive. BTO.
Huge hit-making band out of Canada.
Oh yeah, formed out of the remains of the Guess Who, basically. Yeah, they were a total AOR radio band. Just great stuff.
They had the heavy rockers too.
Yep.
But yeah.
So they had Four Wheel Drive. Let's see, hits on there were Hey You, Na 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 Na, Hey You. Yeah, that was the big hit off of it.
I don't see any other hits on this one.
Not really. On this one, we got my personal favorite cut by them is "Take It Like a Man." That was a hit. "Looking Out for #1" was a big radio hit on this one. Rest of it, no. Really, just this is kind of the end. I think this is towards one of their last of the classic albums.
Yeah, it's a good album too. Again, both of them are good albums. I like them.
This
They're
one's
sort
kind
of
of
straightforward hard rock.
Yeah, this one's kind of cool. It folds out into a 4. Show it.
Yeah, go ahead. It's got all their faces on it.
Yeah. Folds out into a big fold-out poster. Maybe not, because I think I have to break a seal to do it, and I'm not going to do that. It's kind of, you get the idea. Yeah, I'm all off here.
You might have had one more. You might have had another copy of that. I don't remember, but I don't like that
Yeah, I
one.
think I got to break the seal to make it the poster, and I'm not going to.
Cool.
Yep.
Bachman Turner Overdrive. Next up, kind of a. At some point, they kind of became a joke band. If you ever watched that '70s show, it even was like a joke band in that '70s show. Remember that?
I don't know who we're talking about.
STYX.
Oh, STYX.
Yep. EQUINOX.
They became the butt of jokes, I guess.
Yes, they sure did.
They never really.
And it was more because of the sappy ballads that they started getting into, where that became.
But this is one of the early on. They were still pretty prog on here.
Yeah, they were.
Sweet Madam Blues on here, which is an awesome tune. Oops.
And you don't have. Let's see. So the band at this point is.
I don't
James
think Tommy's there yet.
Nope. John Penoza, Chuck Penoza, Dennis DeYoung. Oh, Dennis DeYoung wasn't there.
Oh yeah, Dennis is
He was
there.
there from the beginning.
always
yeah.
there.
Who am I mixing up with?
Tommy Shaw.
Tommy Shaw. And then.
But I don't think the original John Kurlewski, whatever his name, I don't think he was still in the band.
Yeah, John Kurlewski was in the band.
Oh, he is still?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is right before Crystal Ball,
Right.
which is when Tommy Shaw entered the picture, and then they started having massive hits.
Massive, yeah, because Tommy Shaw was a big rocker, and that's what he wanted to do. And then you had was it John Penoza? One of the guys, Chuck Penoza. I can't remember which. Was it
John and Chuck were the bass and
one of the guys.
drummers.
They were like butting heads because all he wanted to do was ballads, and after they had
Well, James Young or JY, to me, he was the real rocker in the band. Because anytime, like, what was it? A couple albums later, Grand Illusion, Miss America, that was one of his tunes. He was always the ones that had the really killer riffs in it. To me, he was the rocker in the band.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a good album though, and I always love this cover.
And Dennis Young was probably the one who wanted to do the sap.
That's it. It is Dennis Young.
And that's what he ended up doing. He just did a guest on another band's album, and the song they came up with is a total STYX tune. And it's a bit like pre-Paradise Theater STYX kind of sounding. I can't remember the name of the band though, but it was pretty good.
You got another one?
Yeah, my turn?
Yep.
Oh, last one, maybe? No. Okay. The Who. The Who by Numbers. It was, this was close to the end. I mean, maybe this is the second to last album that Keith Moon was on. Big songs on here. Squeeze Box was on here, big hit. My favorite, a little bit deeper cut, was Slip Kid.
Yeah, that one's been on the radio quite a bit too over time. Yeah.
I love that track. That's one of my favorite Who songs, is Slip Kid.
It's one of those albums that has an annoying white cover that's always dirty.
Yep.
And one of those another annoying covers so people feel the need to write on
They
it.
feel the need to do the connect the dots. And this one always reminded me of Draw the Line by Aerosmith, because this is similar. Not the same artist, but just the same style.
Same vibe, yeah, some of the same uncoated
In fact,
stock. And
John Entwistle, the bass player, drew this.
Yep.
That was him. So, yeah, the Who by numbers.
2 more to go, and this is all the runners-up.
And this is another 2-for-1.
Kansas, Mask, and
Song for America.
There you go.
Song for America, you see the classic Kansas logo enters the picture finally.
and yeah, good prog rock,
Yeah.
American prog rock. AORish at times.
Them and STYX, really, they were very similar.
I used to mix them up a lot back
Yeah.
in the day. I don't know why, but I just did.
Big tracks on here. Song for America is probably the only one that you really would have seen appear on any of their best of.
I don't think there was any songs in this album that were a hit.
They were still pretty proggy at that point.
Yeah, and I like both these albums quite a bit.
Good tunes on this one. Icarus, Born on Wings of Steel. The Pinnacle's pretty cool.
Mysteries and Mayhem.
This one's got Hymn to the Atmans on it, Incomudro. It's, like I said, still definitely very much more proggy than a hit machine that they would become.
With Dust in the Wind and
Yeah,
The Return.
Return and all that. And Left Overture.
Mm-hmm.
But still, Kansas, good stuff, solid.
Terry Livgren, great vocalist,
Yep.
great guitarist.
Yep. All right.
Last one. Oh, Argent, Circus.
Argent, Circus. Yeah, there's really nothing on here you're gonna know. This was, I think, next to last album for them. It's still the main guys are still here. Rod Argent's still the centerpiece. Where is he? Oh, missing from this, very, very noticeably, is Russ Ballard. He wasn't in the band anymore at this point. He probably started his solo career already, and he was the songwriter. And Russ Ballard is a songwriter.
He was huge in the 80s. He wrote lots of songs in the 80s. For other
And
bands.
a lot of people covered his stuff you wouldn't recognize, like Ace Frehley covered a couple of his tracks. They're all over the place, places I don't even remember at the moment. So, but Argent, I always loved them. They grew out of the 60s band The Zombies, which Rod Argent was a part of also. Great keyboard organist. But again, this isn't one of the ones that I'm going to reach for first if I'm checking out some Argent.
And that's the reason that they're all on just a runners-up list.
Yep. So I think we're entering our top 25 or so.
That's it. So
You want to do this one.
we'll be right back with that one.
All right.
All right. So we're back. This is the numbers 20 through. Yeah.
No, this is numbers 11. No, this is
20 through 11.
or 25 or 26 through number 1.
There you go.
There we go. That's the.
But this first
Side
part, yeah,
two.
we've got what we have here is a pile that's going to be basically 25 through 9. All right, through 10.
Right.
There. Yeah.
And all the way to 1 if we don't take another break.
Yep. All right. So
This
coming
is all
in
you,
number,
buddy.
coming in number 25, Angel, the debut, 1975, Casablanca Records, the Anti-Kiss.
Yep.
Huge stage show, huge looks,
And-
all white, not black, as opposed to Kiss.
And the proggiest we're ever going to hear Angel ever.
Very proggy,
Well, for the first and last time.
very keyboard driven,
Mhm.
as opposed to they would become way more guitar driven and Punky Meadows would become like the vocal point of the band.
Yeah.
As opposed to here, where it was definitely more Greg Giuffria who was the vocal point of the
And
band.
he was such a cool focal point. I mean, almost like a Rick Wakeman kind of look and
Exactly.
going on.
And then you've got Frank DiMino, who's got this stellar, very unique, high-pitched,
Yep.
clean vocal style. And
Definitely.
great album. I always love this cover art. Considered getting it tattooed on me at one time, not just because of the band, but just because I always thought it was a cool graphic of an angel.
It is, and it that graphic kind of faded into the background once they get that cool, you can flip it over logo and it says the same thing upside down and right side up.
Right.
Which so many have tried to imitate. Nobody has ever come close
Yeah,
to having
here
that
you
neat
got
of a logo.
This was the logo here. They had come up with that logo, which came about on the next album. But
Yep.
but the angel was always around. Even the next album, one of the
Yep.
one of the things had like a horn on it. But yeah, and it was always in the background behind them, you know.
Yep.
Back here during the stage thing.
But I think by the third album, they'd phased that out.
Definitely was. But my favorite song in here, I mean, Tower is just a brilliant song, and it's a song that made me a fan of this band back in 1975 is when I first heard this and that song. So.
And they've got the first version of the Angel theme, which closes out the album. It's an instrumental. Which they would revisit on the second album, but it was totally different.
And then the other single from this album was Rock and Rollers, which is a more straightforward, heavy rock song, hard rock song, whatever you want to call it. So. Number 25.
Yep.
Angel.
Or thereabouts.
All right.
What's next? Oh, yeah.
Number 24.
Give me the X-rated one. Entranced by Scorpions. This is a great one. It's got... it's one of the URIAH albums, so that it goes without saying that it's going to be awesome. One of my favorite cuts on here of all time Scorpions tracks is Entranced, the title track.
Entranced is brilliant. It's one of my all-time favorite songs.
We got Dark Lady, which is all URIAH all the way. Robot Man, which is I always like that too. Mm-hmm. That's one of my favorites.
More of a metal trot. So it's top of the bill.
So we've got, this is the beginning of the famously censored Scorpions covers. This one, again, I don't know if this is Hypnosis. I don't think it is.
I don't think it is, but this is the U.S. cover, and you can't, unless you're really paying attention,
it's got this,
you can kind of see...
kind of Brigitte Bardot-looking German blonde, and she's straddled over a Stratocaster. And, you know, let your imagination do the rest. But if you see in the shadow, not too hidden, you got a little... her breast is sticking out. And on this one, not so much. You can't see it, but it still looks like she just had her way with this guitar.
It's kind of like the the Alice Cooper bit with the thumb, where they just kind of blacked it out.
Yeah, except that really was a breast.
Yeah,
that was totally intentional.
Yeah. And but you can barely see it.
Oh, barely. It's in the shadows for sure, but it's definitely there. And,
but yeah, I love this album. I love anything URIAH. Look how young y'all are there too, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
And Yuli's a nice guy, man. I love Yuli.
And this has got the original drummer. What was his name? Rudy Lenners. He was also on the Virgin Killer album. Was he on the first two as well?
I don't remember.
He disappeared, I think, after Virgin Killer, which was the next one.
He kind of left a little green stain.
Scorpions. Scorpions was always a band that I loved way more than I realized. And like later on, I would I even got one of their song titles tattooed on my arm. I didn't do it just because it was Scorpions. It's because what it meant. But still, I realized that Scorpions were a big part of my life, and I wasn't really aware of it. Like I never called them a favorite band, but they were always like there. Some of their songs they meant a lot to me.
And I love the URIAH off there, are the best.
Yep.
So, which is funny because it's not really where I got into them. I got into them in the early '80s.
Oh yeah.
And they went backwards. But when I discovered
I think Blackout was the first one I ever heard.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing. I went backwards.
I think mine was 1980 or 80. Yeah, it was 1980 because the songs like The Zoo were getting played on Z-Rock.
Oh, Animal Magnetism.
Or Z-Rock at the time, or whatever it was called.
And Animal Magnetism and Love Drive were huge ones for me. I loved them.
Metal Shop. I think it was either WYSP, WMR in Philadelphia. Anyhow, rambling. Next up, HAWKWIND.
War at the Edge of Time.
Space Rock featuring, of course,
Lemmy. This is the last album that Lemmy was on. We kind of goofed, and I think we did this one in '76, and we shouldn't have, because it's actually '75.
But yeah, it's different than most of the stuff we're showing.
One of the songs that showed up from these sessions was the track Motorhead. That Lemmy, it was a B-side to, I think, Kings of Speed that was on here. And Lemmy ended up taking that, of course, the rest is history. He created a whole band out of it. And the album focuses on Michael Moorcock's Elric saga again. And it's just really, if you like those early HAWKWIND albums, you'll like this one. It's just the same kind of thing.
I just thought Lemmy's really gave him a distinct sound.
He did.
Because he was a guitar player playing bass, basically.
Yep. And he was using that Rickenbacker.
Yep, so you get that dirty sound that you get from the Rickenbacker.
But you hear his voice in a lot of the back. I mean, he sang some lead in places too,
right.
But you can always hear his
voice.
voice.
Pick him out, yep.
Along with Dave Brock, you knew it was Lemmy. And he definitely did. And I love most all the HAWKWIND I've ever heard, but like URIAH HEEP, the early HAWKWIND is my favorite.
Yeah, it's iconic. It's awesome.
It's great stuff.
That was like number 23 somewhere
Something
in
like
that area.
that.
This is another twofer,
Oh yeah.
and
This is a big.
this band has actually been up in our number 1, 2 slots several times.
They have, just not. I think it was Back in Black and Highway to Hell.
Yep.
Which would have been their massive albums. These were the beginnings. This was back in Australia. They were still on Albert Productions label. And TNT and High Voltage, this High Voltage is not the same as the one that came out in '76 in the US, which
Right.
we always saw as their first. That was actually a compilation of these two albums.
Exactly.
And a lot of the tracks left off appeared later on the '74 Jailbreak EP,
Yep.
but not all of them.
Nope.
There were still a couple that they just never did really do anything with. But this is the start right here. This is AC/DC. They only had one thing prior to this, and it was a two-sided 12-inch, which had the original singer, bass player Mark Evans' brother Dave, and they did "Can I Sit Next to You, Girl" and "Rocket in the Parlor." That was the first official, proper AC/DC release, but this is where it started with Bond, and this is where history really was made.
What you got here? Raw, nasty rock and roll. I mean, everyone knows who AC/DC is. You don't have to really explain it. But if you don't, if you haven't heard these, I actually like these as much, if not better, than the U.S. release.
Oh yeah, totally.
They left off some great songs.
They did. These are, most notably, they did a cover of "School Days" by Chuck Berry.
Berry, which was a huge influence.
It seems to get left off of everything. I think the only place it ever really appeared was maybe that Backtracks box set that I got back up here, but otherwise, that's hard to find. And then, if I'm going to compare what they were kind of like back then, the only band that really comes to mind is like maybe Sweet, sorta. But even then, Sweet, when they first started out, they had all this calypso kind of thing going on. That's definitely not here. It's like it's all the heaviness and the hard riffing of Sweet, without any of the
poppiness of
the sweeter elements.
And it's
and no harm.
I remember a lot of people confusing them to be a punk band back then too.
AC/DC?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they were raw for sure. They were like, this is down and dirty rock and roll the way it's supposed to be.
But yeah, I never considered them even slightly punk.
No. Just really balls out, raw rock
In
and
the
roll.
'70s, we called them heavy metal. We call them whatever we want to these days. But
Right. And they were kind of one of the bridges into all the heavy metal that became known as the standard in the 80s. AC/DC, they could fit into it, but they could just as well not fit into it either.
There was a lot of bands in the '80s that copied their sound.
Oh yeah, big time.
Tons
Big time.
All right, next up,
Nazareth, Hair of the Dog. We got
great
the
album, great cover.
American version here, UK version, same exact covers. The only difference being track 3 on this one is Love Hurts, which is a massive hit. And on the UK one, it's a song called Guilty, which
It's not a massive hit.
No, it's the same exact album except one song different. And it's a great one. I mean, if someone has never heard Nazareth and they need a place to start,
This is the one.
they could start and end here probably if they wanted to. This album is so good, it might as well just be a greatest hits album. It's just great. All the way
front
through.
to back.
All the way through. And in fact, it probably should have been higher on our list. It really
It could have
probably
been.
should have.
I mean, it's just hard when you get into so many great albums now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were weird too. Nazareth kind of had this thing where they'd get heavy and then they'd go light, and then heavy and then really light.
I put them in the same class as URIAH HEEP. They have some great stuff, and then they get kind of spotty in places, and they kind of lose their style, it seems.
But what they excel at was, man, those freaking hits, those vocals, man.
Dan McCaffrey, yeah, he's awesome. He's always spot on.
Yeah, he's just got that raw.
Yep.
Nobody sounds like him, you know.
No.
Very unique. I put him and like Steven Tyler into a similar category only because they just.
Only person I ever thought sounded like him close was Axl Rose.
Yeah,
He's the only one that I ever thought, hey, that sounds kind of like. Obviously, his higher range, not the low stuff he did, but on here again, the title track, "Hair of the Dog." Some of you know it as "Now You're Messing with the Son of a Bitch."
Yeah.
Which it took me a while to figure out it was the same band.
Yeah, ignore me.
Who is it? Maybe it's Dan McCaffrey. It's Laurie.
Yeah,
take a break.
Go ahead. Call it back. Finish it.
Okay. "Hair of the Dog." Yes, awesome. "Miss Misery." Dun, 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 dun. Great riffs all the way through. "Love Hurts," massive hit. A cover, if I remember right.
I don't remember if it was or not.
I think it's an older 50s, 60s type cover. "Changing Times," another hard rocker. "Beggar's Day." "Rose and Heather" is like the instrumental outro of "Beggar's Day." whiskey drinking woman, straight up rocker, and then my personal favorite, Please Don't Judas Me.
That's a great song.
Awesome.
It's just a great album, and it's a awesome cover.
Yep. And it was. I think this is Jim Fitzpatrick, if I remember correctly. The guy who did all the Thin Lizzy covers. No, it's not. It's Dave Rowe. Sorry. Very similar style to Jim Fitzpatrick, though.
Yeah. It's just, I always love this cover.
Oh, it's great. So.
Cool.
And it's kind of like the three-headed, it almost looks like a three-headed dog, you know, like Cerberus that guards the gates to Hades and all that stuff.
Next up. Another
Scott
twofer.
Is,
Lots of twofers.
Scott is the keeper of the albums. Yes, we're doing a twofer here too. Again, bands in the 70s somehow managed to do 2 albums a year. Rush was no exception. Sometimes the album, well, I mean, you know, differing quality, but these two are great albums.
Both of them, awesome.
Yeah, this is basically the beginning of the Neil Peart era. Fly By Night was the first album he was on. Big hits on this one. Well, the title track, Fly By Night, gets regular airplay.
Still.
On classic rock radio. By Torn the Snow Dog is my favorite deep cut.
Oh, that's awesome. I love the live version with that growling bass sound.
Rivendell's a great song. In the End, which closes it out, another great Rush song. Strong start for basically a band that had to reinvent themselves after their main songwriter and lyricist, John Rutsey, the original drummer, left. And then they come back with this, and it's just like, wow. And I mean, Neil Peart filled the shoes and then some, even more so. I mean, the guy brought their lyrical quality and everything. Just he brought Alex and Geddy up several notches from the first album.
Yeah,
great stuff.
This was the second album, and heavy, way heavier than the first album.
Yeah,
I think it's even heavier than
it totally is.
Than Fly By Night. Kind of like almost a heavy Zeppelin vibe to it.
And they'll tell you that they were just so, it's almost like their heads were so big at this point, they just made the most complicated, non-understandable album they could make. Like, I don't know if they were trying to follow in the tracks of Yes and some of the stuff they were doing. I know they were
definitely
fans.
Progressive.
Yeah.
And for me, this album is one of those ones, it's not why I pick particular songs out and say, oh, I love that song, I love that song. It's one of those albums I like to hear from front to back.
Yeah, and it's got 2 mega long prog numbers in it, which is...
I know it starts with Bastille Day.
Oh crap, the way they have them listed, it's all the lyrics, it's not listed the way I need to see it. Okay, we got 2 big proggy numbers, which are, you know, like 10 minutes plus. The Necromancer, and then on the B-side we've got one that's, well, of course, The Fountain of Lamneth, which has kind of become a joke in recent years. But again, it's the beginning of that, hey, we're going to do a whole side that's one song. And we get with broken up titles such as Didax and Narpitz, Bacchus and Bacchus Plateau. I mean, it's heady stuff for sure, and who knows what the hell they're talking about. And probably, chances are, they didn't even know what they were talking about.
But yeah, again, I think coupled with getting these high, very high, like sucking in helium high vocals mixed with that heavy, not only guitar tone, but it was a really heavy, growly bass tone.
Yep.
I love the Rickenbacker bass tone.
And with you know, for its bizarro time changes in places.
Yeah.
It's definitely, all right, if you're just a casual Rush fan, you're probably going to dig Bastille Day. It's got a killer riff in it.
Yeah.
Awesome riff. And
if you're just a casual Rush fan, you probably ignore this record and go right to all the hits. But
yeah, and Lakeside Park is a great kind of a mellow track. And there's a track on here that, like, you would even hear maybe on Dr. Demento, I Think I'm Going Bald, which, you know, that kind of showcases that they actually have a sense of humor. Yeah. You know, which is cool. You don't see a lot of bands do that anymore, that they throw in a song it's in their style, but it's funny.
Yeah.
So, Rush, I mean, yeah. Can't say enough good things about Rush, really. Oh, boy.
This was an interesting one. I mean, I think people are going to be shocked to see it so high in our list.
It's a great album.
Being now the top 20.
For SQUIRE, Fish Out of Water.
It is one of my favorite solo albums from one of the Yes guys.
It's probably my absolute favorite one. John Anderson's solo stuff was a little harder for me to get into.
Yeah, it's okay.
But this one, I loved it right from the
get-go. Steve Howe had some good solo stuff.
Yeah. But this one grabbed me, and I just loved it. It's pretty much a Yes album without John Anderson's backing vocals with it. Because you can really hear how much Chris Squire's voice contributed to the Yes
sound of Yes. Absolutely.
Big time.
And then you can also hear how much he was the heaviness of Yes.
Yes.
Because he was the rhythm section, that heavy, again, Rickenbacker, that dirty, nasty Rickenbacker sound.
And it's unmistakable the way he would play it.
Yep.
The other thing you really hear on here, as well as in some Yes material, is he loved the Beach Boys. And a lot of the harmonies that he put together, it's reminiscent of Beach Boys stuff on Pet Sounds. So I was like, whoa. That was unexpected to me when I first started hearing it, but it's not hard to believe that the Beach Boys were like a seminal band. They influenced a lot of people, just you don't really hear too much about it. Right. Not the way that you hear the Beatles influence people, but the Beach Boys were right up there. Mm-hmm. And I'm not necessarily just talking about all the surfing stuff that they did. It was when they started getting, from Pet Sounds, and Brian Wilson started to getting kind of progressive and experimental. I think that's when they had their biggest influence on people.
Yep.
This is a great album. It's not a song on it I don't like. Were there any hits on it? Not really.
No, I don't think there was any. No.
But it's a great listen.
It might have had a hit on it if it would have been a Yes album.
Yeah. It's a great listen, beginning to end, and I'll even just let it spin all day long. That's how much I like listening to it. It's just really enjoyable record.
Yep, agreed. All right, this next one, beginning of a new band.